Welcome once again to Everything We Do is Magic. This is my introduction to Chaos Magic, episode 8. We've been going through the hermetic principles of the Kybalion. This was part of my pathway. I explained in episode 1 the preamble to this, but the Kybalion, finding this document, this wisdom, really turn things around for me, and I've gone through those, and I'm just gonna kind of recap the principles here before I finish up with the 7th principle. The first principle, of course, is the principle of mentalism. Everything is mental, all is mind. The second is the principle of correspondence. The third is the principle of vibration. The fourth principle of the Kybalion is the principle of polarity. The fifth, the principle of rhythm. The sixth, last week, the principle of cause and effect. And now we come to the 7th principle, the principle of gender. The Kybalion says gender is in everything. Everything has its masculine and feminine principles. Gender manifests on all planes. Now, when we're talking about gender, we're not talking specifically about sex, even though that is the way it manifests in the physical plane. On the higher planes, this principle takes higher forms, but the principle is always the same. There's always a masculine and feminine expression in everything. Thus is creation. The Bible, Genesis, talks about tohu and bohu, I'm really butchering the Hebrew there, but it's darkness and deep darkness. It's chaos. It's randomness hovered over the face, and then it came together and found a balance. And that's what the Kybalion is all about. It's finding a balance. We find it the same in the Buddhist faith of finding that place of release where nothing matters. In modern parlance, we'll say it's the whole concept of it is what it is. That we release all need for it to be a certain way as it should, or release all dreams and ambitions of it could be this way, which ends up kind of like delaying us from going after it, because we're always thinking about it could be this way, and we're forever dreaming of it, and then the whole idea of it would be this way if only this, and we make excuses for not doing it. But what the Kybalion says, and it calls us to, and the whole concept behind the power of chaos magic, which is the release of the need for the outcome. It all brings this into balance. It is interesting that the grimoire, and I call it a grimoire because I believe that's what these stories, there are people who have a better knowledge of the history behind these stories than I, but they can tell you that these stories came from Egypt, and there are similar stories that are passed down through different traditions of how things came to be. But even the Native Americans, I've heard of stories that are similar to the story of Adam, who called and he spoke whatever he spoke. That's what the animal became, and that's the way it kind of literally translates, as far as is possible to translate Hebrew in today's language, today's environment. But that he spoke those things into existence. If you've seen any of my other stuff, I would say back in episode 1 about the hologram, and how we, as pieces of the hologram, which is creation, have all of creation written upon us, because that's the nature of the hologram. That if you look at every bit of your DNA, every strand of DNA has the entire code written upon it, that your entire being, physical being, could be recreated from that strand of DNA. It's possible to do so. We're just code. And that's basically what the if you want to boil it down to its mechanical state, is that's what the principle of gender is all about, is we're open and closed circuits. And you can't have any operation with an open circuit, and gender closes that circuit. Batteries, you have to have the negative and the positive. Well, that pretty much takes us through the Kybalion. You can read it yourself, and I would suggest that you, if you haven't started already, that you start studying and reading upon it, because and meditating upon it. And that kind of leads me to where we're going with next week in episode 9 of my introduction to Chaos Magic, is the meditative practice. And I had been doing some meditative practice before this, and I'll kind of go. It's kind of a skipping spot there, but I'll kind of go back and show you my early meditative practice. But after I read the Kybalion, I sought out some high magic societies with the intention of becoming an acolyte and going through the entire process. And when I did that, I found a whole completely different realm and arena of meditative practice, things like astral projection and those kind of things. And a lot of that was, again, started from a meditative practice. So I'll go through some of those. I'm not going to go through all the steps, but I'll go through some of those. And again, because now I don't want you to become tied down to my system or my way of doing things, because you need to find your own. I want this kind of to be kind of like very dim lights along the path that say it's over this way if you're struggling to find your way, and then until you become your own light. And next week we will begin to actually show you the work, because that is on the level of what they call high magic. I call it deep magic because it's a deep work, as opposed to what's known as low magic. And again, it's not judging. It's just a perspective rather than a judgment. It's not one is above the other, and I'll explain that both are necessary. But low magic, or surface magic, is what I call it, and I'll talk about that in further episodes, and tell you about how, and that's really how I came into Chaos Magic. I kind of went in. So I kind of stepped into high magic and then kind of fell into Chaos Magic, and it's an interesting story there as well. But that's going to wrap us up for this evening. I hope you've enjoyed everything. Remember to like us, subscribe. I just want to thank you guys. This section, channel, whatever it is, of Chaos Magic is getting the most views, the most subscribers of any of my channels. I mean, I love doing the sustainable permaculture stuff. You guys tune in tomorrow and check it out, Sustainable Saturdays. It's all part of what's going on here. It's all part of what's going on in the world. It's all part of read my blog about our story, and you'll see. I believe that it's going to require us to understand and embrace sustainable permaculture practices. It's going to require for us to embrace and understand the concepts behind agorism and voluntarism, that we function and we're capable of functioning in a voluntary society, that we're not each other's enemies as they told us we are each other's brother, and we are capable of living in that way. And that comes to the final category, and those in the community watching this, that of the magicians, the mages, and the wise among you, who are here for this time to help, not push, not pull, but help guide those into this next iteration of mankind, and however that looks. And, everybody has their theory, and I don't know. However, whatever I believe, it's almost like whatever you believe works, but for you. But we're going to need you. So thank you for tuning in. Thank you for subscribing, and I really appreciate your support. But check out our other stuff too. It's interesting. You'll learn a lot about permaculture, and learn a lot about or my mistakes, I guess. Anyway, I hope you have a wonderful week. We'll be back next week with another Udam. Everything we do is magic. Namaste.